Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 128. Shacknews presents Pop Goes the Culture. I'm Donovan and Greg, news editor here at Shacknews, and I'm joined as always by Greg Burke, our illustrious head of video. Greg, happy Thursday morning for you over on the West Coast. It's a measly 11 a.m. The rooster's still crowing over there. Yeah. Well,
Muted. There we go.
here you didn't miss much, Greg. Just that it's 11 a.m. on the West Coast. He's still getting his coffee and
Yep.
settling for the day. Well, Greg, here on the East Coast, where things happen, where the world lives, it's already 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Overpopulation. Yeah, there's so many people
Yeah.
out there, and it's so crowded.
It's already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The day's more than halfway over, and we're working through it. We've got some earning stuff coming up later today, which is exactly why we're going live a couple hours earlier than usual. Then we still want to talk movies and TV with you guys, and
Every
we
week.
might even have a guest appearance coming in later that I forgot to mention to Greg before we went live, but we'll see if that happens or not. I'm not 100% sure. But before we get into that, let's start out with some news, Greg, because boy, big week for news. Fun story up front, and then we're going to do some interesting flip-flopping after that. Fallout renewed for a season 2 at Amazon Prime Video. Probably like the no-brainer story of the month. This show's awesome. We loved Fallout Season 1. It's a great program. I think it's one of the best video game adaptations we've gotten so far. You and I are big fans of it. And before they even renewed it for a Season 2, I believe that the production Kilter Films received like a tax credit from the state of California to move Season 2 to film in California before they even got renewed. So it was like the writing was on the wall. People were loving the show. It was getting great reviews. This seemed like a no-brainer, but it's cool that now that we have the official announcement.
Showing up.
Second season, Fallout. Greg, are you excited?
I mean, like, yeah. I mean, I feel like they weren't sure what they wanted to do with it, right? Like and I feel like usually, like, it's a lot more. Like, with TV is a lot more instantaneous. You can get that reception right quickly and fast to see if the reception's well. But this was even like before. Like, I think we had already seen it because we got press screeners, but they had already like renewed it before it even dropped, I think, officially, or like less than 24 hours after it dropped officially. And they claimed it was because California gave them like this limited time, like huge tax expense for over $25 million as a tax credit to shoot, because like, for those of you who don't follow the film industry a little bit, like California and New York especially have become this egregious like tax state to film in, and so like they only film there absolutely 100% necessary because they make it so expensive for film companies to do so. So they film in New Mexico or Montreal, or the new Ghostbusters movie was filmed in New York in UK for most of it, not even New York, right? A lot of
Georgia's a big one. Almost all the Marvel stuff shoots in like Atlanta, in Georgia, because as far as tax stuff concerned, that's another like state that the people love to film in. Financially,
so that was definitely a big part of it. And I don't know whoever who's not surprised. This was a great show. Amazon knows how to throw money on their production values. Jonathan Nolan, who I just put together as Christopher Nolan's brother, right?
Yeah, worked with him on a lot of his beloved movies, Dark Knight, all that stuff.
Which is wild. I mean, like, it's cool because I've been reading about their history a little bit, and I try not to, because if there's something I don't like in it, like it shouldn't, right? But it affects but like, they're a pretty straightforward history. Like, they grew up like anyone else did, and they paid their dues, and they were right place, right time, and got the end, and like, yeah. So I mean, it's a great show. Like, I don't know. Have you seen this? I don't think any of my friends have seen it, because, as we get older, it gets harder and harder to to try to play games and watch movies and see TV shows. But no, I mean, I'm not surprised. It sucks that because it wasn't pre-renewed, like they didn't order 2 seasons or 3 seasons right out of the gate. We're gonna have that 4-year gap before we see it again. So, but
Mm.
I think, I mean, usually when a show is this successful and it's talked about this much, usually like they secretly order 2 or 3 seasons. So they may do seasons 2 and 3, and they just announce that they renewed season 4, but they can't announce season 3 yet, and they tend to set that up so production can go a lot smoother, so you can shoot it back to back to back and not have this. Because now, I talk about it all the time, Donovan. Now negotiations have to start again, right? Now you have to get all the actors back if their schedules are open. Like, you know, now you have to start you have to start the whole process over when you do it season per season, aside from assigning like 3 seasons at once. So I hope everyone makes a return and there's not like convenient deaths that happen off screen due to actor conflicts.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like who pops up and comes back. I hope that they get everybody back from the previous season. The show. I want to see Moises Arias' character back. I'd love to see what he does. I feel like they kind of set up what's going to happen with Lucy moving forward, but a lot of the side characters, I don't really know what their thread is going to be moving forward. Obviously, there's like very clear teases of where they want to go and what they want to do in the next season. So I'm sure I could give you at least a pitch for where it's gonna be at. But
How many seasons do you think we'll get, Donovan? How many would you like to see? I guess that's a good question, right?
um, I don't know. I don't. I mean, I imagine I'm thinking like this is the studio that did Westworld, Prime Video doesn't have any shows that have gone for too long. I guess with like The Boys has to be the longest running show on Prime Video, going on 5 seasons now. So see Fallout going 4 or 5 once it's all said and done. It'll take them a while to get there, but I could see that being the trajectory for them. But I feel like there's so much story in this one. I don't even know what a 4th or 5th season about this show would be. You know, but yeah.
I always feel like it's good to have like that centric arc. Like you have a story you want to tell, right, over 3 seasons, and then once you're done, it can get messy. Like you're not sure what you want to tell anymore. It can get really convoluted and complex. But I think like this show can benefit from one of those like American Horror Story. Like I would love to see like every new season be like about a different vault, or every new season be about a different character in the world, like not necessarily about Lucy and the Ghoul and Maximus, but like other characters. Like I feel like it really lends itself well to that formula, you know?
Yeah, they could definitely bring in like other vaults and other characters and stuff. I just think that now you've created this character Lucy who people love.
Yeah.
Ella Purnell is so good as that main character. If you do season 2 and continue with her character, then you're like, all right, season 3 we're going to Texas, and now we're gonna follow people like, whoa, 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 what do you mean? We love these characters. So I'm sure people will move in and out. 'Cause that's just how television works. But you got to have Lucy there. She's too cool. She's like the new face of the series, really. Which is interesting because as popular as Fallout is, the Fallout franchise doesn't have a face. You know, because you're playing as your created character in all the video games. So everyone's different. It's not like an Uncharted where there's a Nathan Drake. You know, so I think. And we could be living in a world where by the time there's 3 or 4 seasons of Fallout, that Lucy is the face of that franchise. She's like the first person you think of when you just think of the Fallout IP overall, you know, which I think could be really interesting.
What happens
So,
what happens when her arc is over though? Like, and she's the hardened veteran like the Ghoul, right? I think that's where you do the spinoff, right? Where she's now the one taking a new vault while they're into the world for the first time and showing them the ropes, you know?
Yeah, that would be quite interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I am very much excited to watch the show. And Greg, you tell me, are you excited for what you think they're teasing up in season 2? Because you're a big Fallout guy.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think they did everything great. And, like, the thing about the writers on the show, as I said before, is that nothing is wasted. Like, there's so much stuff, and I'll use Ghostbusters as an example. There's so much stupid stuff in those movies that has no purpose. It's just there, you know, but, like, there wasn't a single thing that was spoken or shown that didn't interconnect into subplot in some way, right? I think like it's like the whole carcass is used, right? Like, and I love when that happens because it makes you pay extra attention to everything, because everything is equally important. None of it is just fan service. which is funny because it seems like fan service, but it all comes back, and I like that. You know, like I think it's very clever, and I think it's important. I mean, when you shoehorn in things just to include them, I think it distracts from characters and the world and all stuff like that. But everything comes full circle. Everything in this show, and I think as they continue to do that, they don't waste anything. You know, they use every minute of every frame is important. Even the framing of shots, like nothing is wasted. There's no dead air anywhere, which is wild. Very, very, very good filmmaking. Filmmaking at one of its highest levels, right? Like it's entertaining, it's pop culture, but it's also like meaningful and like has messaging and has like a theme and subtext, like stuff that you don't really see in a lot of like the big popcorn movies, you know, that just like I want to be entertained for 2 hours, and that's what it does, right? That's what all it's supposed to do. I know. I mean, I think they could go anywhere with it, really. Like I want to see Cooper find his family and what happened to them after the bombs dropped. I want to see Lucy continue to develop as a character. I want to see Maximus, like, the anti-military themes in the Brotherhood I think are great, and I really want to see like where that goes, like with Maximus, and I want to see even when his squire became a ghoul, like how that goes, you know, like I think we're going to see like how the world treats ghouls, how you become one, and how the world treats you differently, like which is basically just a form of racism, right? So I want to see more of that. I think it's interesting, and it all comes back to just this interesting world that's fun and bombastic, but also serious and like deadly, you know, like and it all comes together in this beautiful ballet of just like of video games and drama and character development and world building and production design and location scouting. Like it's like I said, it's such a beautiful show. I mean, I'm on my third watch of it right now, you know, so, and I'm still finding new things, you know, so it's just cool. And the cool thing is in the press, like I feel like a lot of people are getting credit. Like, yes, the director's getting credit and the actors are getting credit, but like I've seen interviews with like the costume designer, the production designer, the set builder, and I love, because it is a production, like it takes thousands of people to do this. And I love when those smaller people get that voice, you know, it's cool because there is no Fallout without the production designer, right? The person who built the suit, you know what I mean? Like my friend Chris actually knows the person who built some of the non-hero shot suits, like they commissioned him. Like it's a big team. And like even with I did an interview with Sarita, the actress who plays Moldiver, and she said that like she's never been on a set before where you're waiting to the side and there's like 80 people standing by, like waiting if something doesn't go right, like, you know, like they're all waiting in case it doesn't happen, whatever the effect is. And she's never been on a set that a television set specifically like that before. So it's cool just how much stuff goes on behind the scenes, and I wish the industry was more transparent because it is a lot of work, and I don't think, especially when the TV shows released all at once, I feel like you basically consume 4.5 years of work in like 8 hours, and I feel like that's such a brutal balance.
Yeah, it's a lot that goes in these productions that people just do not understand in the slightest. I also want to shout out some comments from our community manager, Denny, in the chat. He says, yeah, there might be room for a core show and then a spinoff, maybe like Game of Thrones pulled. I haven't got to watch the show yet, but visually it all looks appealing so far. For folks even familiar with the franchise, they might be drawn in just from the way it's shot and produced. Yeah, exactly. It's similar to The Last of Us. You could show this to somebody who doesn't care about Fallout, doesn't care about video games, and they could just enjoy it for the story and humor on its own. So yeah, I'm interested that they got into a spinoff. Maybe let's get another 1 to 2 seasons of the core show before we start talking spinoff. But I'd be interested to see them explore the rest of that universe.
I feel like westerns have made a comeback these last couple years in like really interesting ways, because like the westerns, as people know, were huge in the 50s up to the 60s. Like they were very popular as a very popular genre that just stopped because people stopped watching them and production got very expensive. But like Star Wars and Fallout, both of these genres, especially in the television show department, are westerns. They are westerns. Like they are. Like which is interesting. They just take that genre, never left. It just kind of got a different flavor of like theme, right? That's all it is. I mean, the story of someone leaving like a farm in like an old western story to like go, you know, find some way to save it is like a classic tale that harkens back, you know, 100 years, you know, like, and that's what this is. It's same thing with Star Wars. Someone like the Star Wars, he literally leaves a farm. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's westerns. It's these western themes that these filmmakers grew up with watching that just translate, and these writers grew up watching it just translate so well with just a different flavor that makes it a slightly more interesting world than just a standard Western.
Yeah, and look, as somebody who never seen well, I've seen westerns, but like I grew up past the time
Mhm.
of the classic western as people know them. I enjoy a lot of the adjacent stuff, you know. So, hey, give me more Fallout, please. Inject it into my bloodstream. I'll take it very quickly.
Should we do the
Um,
special announcement while we're here? Should we do the live interview now? Or
yeah, why not? You want to go ahead and introduce it? Set this up.
yeah, so we have the opportunity to email Sarita Cloudry, who plays Moldiver on the Fallout show, and we're gonna put our interview here live now for you guys to watch. So please enjoy as I turn it up and do this. So where's the other one? There we go. If you could take something from the Fallout universe and bring it with you into real life, what would it be and why?
The Pit Boy, for sure. For sure. I used to have a hard time wearing it, and now I miss it.
So my first question is, how did the Fallout show compare to past television shows you've worked on compared to production?
The scope of the sets are ridiculous. I thought I was going to be on a green screen, and I wasn't. It was all real sets. So that blew my mind. Yeah, just the technicians around us for everything to work, like in the vaults. I've never been on a set while I'm doing a scene where there's like 80 people waiting to come in case that thing doesn't happen. I was a bit of a geek on set. I just kept like staring. I never got bored once. And we didn't have our phones on the actual set. So it was kind of nice. It was like it's like an adult Disneyland. You know what I mean? I really enjoyed it.
Did you do anything to prepare for your role on the Fallout show?
Yeah, I did. Well, it was complicated because I never played. First of all, I've never held a gun in my life. So there was moments where I was actually on a tank with a gun, with like a tank gun, not even a gun. And just odd moments where like the stunt guys would be like, okay, Sarita, just this. And I was like, no, you guys have to do it and then I'll do it. I don't have any references for warfare in my body. And they were laughing. So I had to really work on that. A lot of the guns are heavy. So all that cool, that takes hours to learn. It took me a long time. And especially Moldaver is such a force. I didn't want there to be one thing missing in her, you know what I mean? But yeah, just also learning how to, when I was playing the scientist part of her, how to keep her Moldaver in her, but be completely different as well. Yeah, it was just interesting.
You have a plethora of work. What's the biggest difference between working on a television show and a feature film?
I feel like in feature film, you have less time to kind of accomplish this character thing. You're less forgiven. Like in a series, you could do something and be like, that's not right. You can make up for it later somehow. You know what I mean? Feature films are unforgiving, but you have more rehearsal. They're all so different.
If you could take one piece of technology from 2024 and bring it with you into the wasteland, what would it be and why?
I'm so not a techno girl. The only technology I have is my phone, and I definitely don't want that. I'd like freedom from that. My espresso maker, I don't know.
If you could take something from the Fallout universe and bring it with you into real life, what would it be and why?
The Pit Boy, for sure. For sure. I used to have a hard time wearing it, and now I miss it.
There's been a flurry of video game adaptations coming out lately. Would you like to be a part of more video game adaptations, film, TV moving forward?
Do you know, it's interesting because usually when you say yes to something, it's kind of based on the writers or the director because I'm not a video game player. So the answer would be, it really depends on who's doing it. And Jonathan Nolan was the reason I took this one.
Nice. Well done. Well done. Jolly good show. She's great in that show. I love Mulder as a character that when they first bring her in that first episode, I thought she was fine, like the character at first. Bit like generic villain, but then the way they kind of flesh out her arc at the end of that season is so good. And it made me want to go back and rewatch that first episode because it just adds so much more context and nuance to her character. Um,
But yeah, that's it for
uh,
the Fallout stuff. Like, sorry, we had a lot of Fallout news today that took up the first 20 minutes. Good
we
show.
did,
Check it out if you
and
haven't.
now we're going to talk about something that's less significant than Fallout and probably will take considerably less time. Greg, the rights to Clue have landed at Sony. You know, Clue, the board game, that classic tabletop game where you guess who the person is, was already made into a film many years ago that I know a lot of people on staff like. I've never seen it, but now Sony has the rights and they're developing projects based on Clue.
I mean, you've
Are you
never seen
excited?
the movie. You've never. It's a whodunit. How have you not seen this movie?
Look, I
It's
like
literally a
whodunit stuff. I'm not
whodunit.
a connoisseur.
It's like saying I
Is it?
love horror, but I've never seen Scream.
You
Like,
know, that
how
would
can
upset
you?
me.
How? Yeah, it used to. I mean, Paramount bought the rights to it originally in 1985.
Every person in this room
But to be fair, I'd never seen it either. But Nicole, my wife, she loves this movie. And it has a lot of really funny. It's Tim Curry at its best. Christopher Lloyd. There's a lot of people in this movie, and it's a mystery. And it's before the board game thing was a genre, right? Before your battleships and before Hot Wheels. I think they're making a Hot Wheels movie too. Like, it's definitely ahead of its time.
What's a matter of life after death?
A lot of comedians from the 80s.
who's helped many men along the way.
Yeah, I mean,
Professor
you know, it's one of those movies where I will say I'm fascinated about it because I know that they did that really cool thing where it was like different endings depending on like what theater you went in to watch it. But I believe you can now just watch all of them if you own the movie.
Paramount Pictures invites you to
I mean, Sony. I mean, like Sony's hit or miss. You know, like sometimes they get properties that they don't know how to deal with or stuff like that. So it is unfortunate that Sony Pictures with the people to grab it. But I mean, and I feel like Universal would do better, you know, or even Warner Brothers might even do a better adaptation than Sony. But who knows? Maybe they might hire the right people.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Hey, look, you know, we're living in a world where the highest grossing film of last year was a movie based on a toy. You know, so I'm not turning down the idea of new Clue stuff. Could be fun. Also, I think you could do a lot with this concept just in a modern setting, right? Like it's been some years since we got that last Clue movie. I think you just make the thing is with Clue is that like it can be whatever you want it to be. So you could just make a mystery and then just call it Clue. Like you don't have to adhere to like any weird like universe rules and whatnot. There aren't like a bunch of characters that have to be there. So I'm interested to see what they do with it, but like you said, it all depends on who they give it to, right? Because production company is one thing, but who's writing this thing? Who's going to be directing it? Who's going to be starring in it? Will it be connected to the movies? Probably not, but it could be. Never know.
Will it be a trilogy? Will it be a Clue Cinematic
Will it be a
Universe? Who
trilogy?
knows?
Probably.
Who knows? But no, I mean, like I mean, I feel like they're staples, right? You have to have your Colonel Mustard, your Professor Plum. You have to have like the weapons in it somehow, whether they're in the backdrop or they're holding them. Like there's certain things, right? But at its source, it's a mystery of who killed somebody. That's the core. I mean, if you build off that foundation, I feel you're pretty safe. Yeah, I mean, if you've never, I mean, I recommend the original. Such a good movie, and you wouldn't. It's one of those movies you wouldn't expect it to be either. I think that's the big kicker. Is it's such a good film, and it shouldn't be. It has no right to be.
Yeah. Look, is this movie streaming? Clue? Can you watch Clue anywhere online?
Paramount Plus, I'm gonna guess.
Oh, yippee! That's just my favorite place. Oh, you can watch it on Pluto TV. Isn't that dandy?
Pluto.
Oh,
Oh man, these
1985, that's
streaming
when Back to
rights
the
for
Future
these
came
movies
out.
made in the 80s are so wonky. It's just like, dude, like at a certain point, like just release the goddamn thing. Like seriously.
Greg's like, put it on YouTube.
Oh my good lord. I mean, like it's better than sitting in a vault doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand these companies sometimes. Overvalued. That's the word I'm gonna think. Overvalued. Some of these properties are overvalued. The Clues made its money. Like it's not gonna make any more money. Just say yes to the standard 15,000 streaming right thing and let someone have it other than Pluto. Because Pluto's ads are egregious. Like my wife watches stuff on Pluto and Tubi.
I've never used Pluto.
And there's a lot of ads.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's all right. Yeah, I mean, you guys use a lot of those free services though. Where does Pluto rank among them?
Lower. I mean, it depends. Like what my wife wants to watch. Uh, Army of Techno says, I liked the undertone of McCarthyism in the original film. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting, like I said, there's a lot of interesting things the film has going on. And yeah, and like a lot of comedians. A lot of comedians. Uh
Now, I'm thinking of like the lead into the comedy with this one, all the like modern comedic actors they put in it that could go one of two directions really quickly, but we'll see.
Starring Kevin
We'll see.
Hart, Mrs. McCarthy. Oh God,
I that's
who will
yeah,
fall
my
down
that's where
more
my
in the
head's going.
hardest?
Yeah, that's where my head's going, and I'm like, yeah, this could be really cool or really unfortunate. But yeah, we'll talk about that when there's more substance to it. Once they start revealing these projects are going to
Yeah.
be, they say film and television. I imagine we'll be hearing more as the year goes on. Greg, before we get to our next story, we should talk about the Shacknews Switch channel, which people can follow. Hit that heart, but hit that notification bell and be notified every time we go live here on this channel. Because boy, we stream a lot. Pop Goes the Culture is far from our only program here. I mean, just today we'll be streaming earnings calls. We'll have taken it to the lab after that. I know what character TJ is going to be playing. I'm not going to announce that here because I'm not sure if he's already posted his article about it. But on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, we've got Steve Tendo. There's a lot of stuff happening on the Shack News Switch channel. Catch us on Fridays every now and then. I believe it's like an every other Friday sort of thing. We're streaming Mario Kart because we're on a quest to rank all 96 levels, which that has been a blast so far. And yeah, if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can subscribe to our channel for free. Helps us keep the lights on. And even if you aren't an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can also just subscribe for five measly dollars, please. Please.
I need about 350.
Yes, but of course, we just enjoy people hanging out, watching the stream, chatting with us, making discussion. And Greg, I should throw here to you because you manage our two YouTube channels, Shack News and Shack News Interviews, which we got a tease of one of them earlier with your Fallout interview. And what's been going on in the YouTube world?
I mean, what hasn't been going on in the YouTube world? Jesus, every day it's the content rush for content. Content is
Right.
king, as they say, right? So we have on the Shack News Interviews channel,
Sure.
if you've seen it, like we have interviews with game developers, celebrities, athletes, esport gamers, a lot of game dev stuff. Just to name a few, we did a Elder Scrolls Online email with the studio head Matt Fyroy, who
Interview.
talked about paid character transfers. We did an interview with Thick as Thieves, a game that there's not even gameplay out yet. It's so early in development, and it has two like legends
Inside
attached
scoop.
to it. Warren Spector and Greg LaPiccolo, who
Ooh.
Greg LaPiccolo did Rock Band, and Warren Spector did like the Thief games and like Epic Mickey and some other stuff over the years. We did this. You got the CEO of GameSense. If you wanted to smell your games and understand how that technology works, that's a great interview. We got Cataclysmo, the people who made Moonlighter, the creative director, Monaco 2, the dude, that guy was mad passionate. Andy Schwartz was mad passionate about that game, 20 years in the making. Night Dive Studios, I mean, we have TJ's did interviews with the new Prince of Persia game that's made by the Dead Cell devs. Like, we have so much content over there. And then on the Shack News side, there are a lot of earnings this week, so you'll see a lot of earnings on the call. But we have like our features, our gameplay, our reviews. We don't have our VODs on there. Unboxings. We have a ton of stuff. TJ's Homeworld 3 unboxings on there. We have shorts. We have my Fallout 76 thing, which blew up last night, which is great. I woke up this morning, it had like 1,000 more views, which is huge for us. So it was a big deal. Please like check it out. Like, and if you don't want to support us on the Twitch channel, you can support us just by watching our content and sharing it. You don't even have to subscribe. I know that's appreciated, but just watching our content that is free on YouTube is a great help. So yeah. Oh, and our Discord.
Awesome.
We have a Discord too.
Yes, as I also dropped the command in there, join the official Shack News Community Discord. We've got channels in there for pretty much anything you'd want to talk about. There are not only channels to discuss movies and TV, but you can drop a message in the Pop Goes the Culture reaction suggestion channel. And when I go to put our run of show together every Thursday morning, I'll look at it and I might put it on here. We have some stuff from there today that's going to be featured in just a little bit. But Greg, before we get to that, we have a far less I won't we have another story to talk about, Greg, because we're getting closer than ever to a potential ban of TikTok. Boy, this one's a doozy because we've been talking about this since the Trump administration. All the like ban TikTok stuff started with him, and we've come all the way back to it now in the Biden stuff. And over the last few months, they kind of heated up these conversations about the potential of banning TikTok. And this past weekend, the House kind of voted on the bill. went to the president's desk, and then I believe it was yesterday morning, he announced that he was signing it into law. Now, interesting tangent on this is that the bill that includes the ban of TikTok is only that's only a piece of that bill. It also includes the United States sending federal aid to a number of countries, including Israel and Ukraine. And essentially, now we've got an ultimatum. ByteDance, who is the primary owner of TikTok, has two options: get banned in the United States or divest and
Diverse, yeah.
sell the American operation of its business to a different company. They almost immediately responded to the news saying that they were going to be fighting it in courts. And Greg, it seems like we might actually have a conclusion to this saga fairly soon in regards to ByteDance and TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, like it's important. It's definitely an impactful. TikTok is a huge platform in this country, and much like Facebook and Google and other sites, they do steal data. Like the same, like, but we've talked about this just to be clear on the thing before I get on my soapbox is that like Facebook steals data, Google steals data, right? They both steal your data. They both take information from your phone and from you on a daily basis. But the biggest difference is here is that it's controlled by a Chinese corporation. Now the CEO of TikTok
Everyone,
went
the
online
show here.
and
As you
and
may have
had
heard,
a
Congress
play here for a
passed the
minute.
bill that the president signed into law
So,
that is designed to ban
the one thing
TikTok
that I
in
think
the
youth
United
don't like
States.
is being
That
lied
would take
to. And if
TikTok
anyone's
away
watching
from
our
you
stream
and
right now,
170
like
million Americans who find community
take
and connection
take
on our
take
platform.
data from you, or
Make no
take
mistake,
use
this is
obtain
a ban.
data from
A
you
ban on
in a
TikTok
shadily
and a
way.
ban on you and your voice.
The CEO of TikTok goes on, the CEO of ByteDance goes on and talks about like how it's a violation of our freedom of speech. But the one thing that I think the youth hates right now is just being lied to. And like, I got news for everybody. Like, he's lying. Like, this isn't about free speech. This isn't about like making your voice heard. This is about like wanting to maintain that demographic in the United States because it's massively profitable for the company. Period. And I say that because, like, guess what's not available in the country the platform is made? China. It's not available in China. It is banned. It used to be available in Hong Kong until 2020, where the Chinese government decided that it was a risk to national security and banned it across their whole country. So I believe this is a lot of like the pot calling the kettle black. Like, yes, there are other companies that take data from you from your app too, but like the fact that they try to hide behind this, like this freedom of speech, First Amendment thing, it is allowed there. Last time I googled it yesterday, it said it was up until 2020 it was banned, and that they used to have it in the mainland China in 2020. So if I'm wrong, I will retcon that. But I did some research yesterday, and it said that it's not available in China due to security issues.
I think it's like a separate app. Okay, yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, it's like a separate app where you access it, but it's not like in the same way we download and access it here. Um, there's a bit of a barrier to entry there. Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's such a like complex issue. I feel because I think that there are reasonable arguments for banning it and not banning it, but at the same time, I think that a lot of the decision makers on both sides also just have like bad intentions. On one hand, I think that whether you like or hate TikTok, it is a platform that young people use to communicate. There's a lot of misinformation on there, but there's also a lot of misinformation on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and any other social media. And I think that in an election year, a social media platform that's known for being popular among the youngest generation of people on the internet, um, wanting to ban it now, one doesn't seem like a coincidence, and two just also seems like a way to turn an entire generation against you politically. Um, and then also, I do get the concerns about it, right? Like I myself don't even use TikTok, but I don't think it should be banned. But I do understand the concerns of like, hey, like when you open this app and you're given it, yeah, permissions to use this and that, you are letting it see a lot of things on your phone and access a lot of stuff on your phone, which is concerning. It concerns me that TikTok does that. It also concerns me that Facebook does that with their family of apps. So I get the concern there. I do want to read this statement. I know you just showed the video from the CEO.
Mhm.
They also put out this statement yesterday on Twitter. This was right when the announcement came. That says, let's see. Our statement on the enactment of the TikTok ban. This unconstitutional law is a TikTok ban, and we will challenge it in court. We believe the facts and law are clearly on our side, and we will ultimately prevail. The fact is, we've invested billions of dollars to keep US data safe and our platform free from outside influence and manipulation. This ban would devastate 7 million businesses and silence 170 million Americans. As we continue to challenge this unconstitutional ban, we will continue investing and innovating to ensure TikTok remains a space where Americans of all walks of life can safely come to share their experiences, find joy, and be inspired. A lot of technical jargon there. Obviously, they're invoking the Constitution, and they may or may not have a case there. That's going to be for a judge to decide. But I don't know. For me, it's kind of annoying when I see people just being like, "China bad, ban TikTok," and that's like the end of the take. Because it's like there are people who like built a career on there, communicate with people there, or like share information or passions and stuff on there. Like not everything on TikTok is people dancing to pop songs and whatnot. There is like meaningful stuff that people post on there. Same as I would say for Twitter or Instagram or any social media platform. I think there is value in it. I don't think that it's fair to generalize and be like, oh, this platform's stupid because people use it to do stupid things. So I don't know. They've been very adamant about like we're not going anywhere. Nothing's going to happen to us. I think probably they do end up selling it. I know we've talked internally, just speculating who would
Yeah.
buy it. I've heard people throw around Microsoft. I think during the Trump administration, it was like Oracle was like the company that was like kind of in that
It
conversation.
fell
I
through.
don't know
Yeah,
if
but that
that's
was the plan. Yeah, like
yeah.
Microsoft and Oracle were going to obtain it, but it never came to light.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that we're in for a hell of an election year if this actually happens.
I mean, like,
This is
and
going to be wow. Do good.
no, it was just like people forget, but like there was like even before TikTok, like there was issues with Facebook having misinformation spreading rapidly and like people trying to influence like voter decisions using that platform. So it's not just it's any platform, it's any social platform, right? Like it's that's the issue. Any major social platform, so that includes Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. X is a shit show,
Mhm.
but like I mean everyone knows that, but like so is like Facebook, right? Instagram, right? And Denny and I have to, yeah, that's also, so that's the problem. It's all the social media, right? Like how do you verify like stuff? It's wild. Like when I was trying to verify that TikTok was involved in China, it wasn't. There was no mention of a separate app for TikTok. Maybe I had to change my Google search results for that. But it's dangerous. It can be very dangerous, get very dangerous very quickly, and that's not just a TikTok thing. That's any social media platform, right? Especially one that caters to your interest and only your interest, and you get put in these groups. And I have friends who've had other friends that they go down the QAnon rabbit hole quickly. You know what I mean? The anti-vax thing quickly. You know what I mean? Because then it starts shoving that stuff in your face and nothing but that. And like that's your world. You know what I mean? Like, if this just keeps recommending stuff that you're liking and engaging in, and that's all it's recommending, you don't get any other information from anywhere else. And that is definitely a dangerous thing. It's very bad. But what's even more scary is if you go back and watch the Senate and Congress talk to Mark Zuckerberg, all these old white 60-year-old men who do nothing but inside trade all day know nothing about how these platforms work and how they function.
No.
So it gets even more dangerous because they don't know how do you regulate something you don't understand? You know what I mean? So like they don't get it. They're just like, oh well, anyway, what bill can we pass that'll make my stock go up? And like that's basically what they do now in Congress. So like, hey,
Howdy.
So,
Steel chair.
Yeah, sorry.
We need to
Here
we need
comes-
to
come in
laugh.
later.
oh, he comes in,
Yeah.
the man with the briefcase himself.
Yeah, so just a few reasons why you weren't able to find TikTok in China when searching.
Mhm.
It's not called TikTok in China.
Okay.
It's called Douyin, Douyin, and it is
Yeah.
exactly the same platform as TikTok, but a separate server that only works in China or is designed for Chinese users. So that's
Interesting.
why you weren't able to find it, Greg, is that it's not called TikTok over there, but it is a separately operating TikTok for the Chinese people. Because obviously China censors things, right? YouTube's not over there. Facebook's not over there.
MySpace wasn't there when there wasn't
no.
MySpace.
I don't think anyone cared about MySpace or China back then because we're talking like early 2000s.
Mm.
But I wanted to point out like you said some stuff about how like Facebook steals your content. No, they don't. You just didn't read your end user agreement. You agreed to give everything to Facebook when you signed up for that account. You agreed that they know your email address, right? And then they turn around and they buy information from Google. Google is selling your info to Facebook. Amazon is selling your info to Facebook. And then that helps them create an ad model to target you, right? So it's most of the stuff being taken from users is in the interest of giving you better ads.
Mhm.
And I would argue that Instagram probably has the best ads on any platform when it comes to something relevant for you, something that you would want to buy or would be interested in clicking on. So I think that as terrible as it is, the practice is, the users are agreeing to it, and you could argue it makes the platform better. So then what's the problem with TikTok? It's a Chinese company. That's it. And like I think that the government is worried that a Chinese company can influence social discourse. I think that's really what it boils down to. So it's like it's just kind of funny because if you look at China, they do exactly the same thing. They don't let US own social media in their country either. So I on that side I understand it. From a defense standpoint, I don't want anyone in the government with TikTok on their phone. Like that's a bad
That's
idea.
fair.
So, like, I understand why the Department of Defense feels that way or Homeland Security feels that way, but like, do we think dance videos are really going to be a problem? Like, are they the risk? No. But there's obviously the thing that I've noticed, and I hate TikTok. I don't like using it, but obviously we create content for it here at Shacknews. The thing I've noticed is people get their news from TikTok now. A lot of people get their news from TikTok now. So that's another reason why I think politicians are worried about this, because it does tend to tilt to a more, I don't even know what the term would be, because there's a right wing fringe. There's like fringe opinions all over TikTok, and they get pushed up in the algorithm. So like, I understand why the government's worried about it, but I like imagine if they were like Nintendo has to be a US owned company, or else they
Yeah.
can't operate here anymore.
Mhm.
It just seems like a very strange stance to take. And I think that the deadline occurring after the election is not a coincidence. So they don't want any bad press before that. They thought they were going to get some good press for this. We can also mention just how shady it is to include this in a defense spending bill.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mentioned that up top, but
that's pretty
Priorities.
weird.
really struck me.
Like, because if you voted against this, well, then you're voting against Ukraine, right? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
maybe I am voting against the TikTok part of the bill, but no, you just look bad, right? Because no one wants to vote no on helping people. So like, I think that's the shady thing that the government does is they shoehorn these things into other bills.
They do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no question. I'm an electronic music fan, so I always mention this one. But the Anti-Rave Act, which said if you're a promoter and you're throwing an event in an abandoned building and someone has drugs there, you are running a crack house. That law was included in the Amber Alert bill.
Jesus.
Because no one would who would vote against the Amber Alert? The Amber Alert's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But no, let's ruin raves forever. And that worked. You know what I mean? So like sometimes you slide these things in just to get them across the goal line.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't think TikTok does anything that's that different than the other social media platforms. And that's what I think's weird about this. Because then it really is about protectionism, right? It is about keeping China away from this country. And then it's just like, why aren't we stopping them from buying up all the real estate on Long Beach? Why are we only worried about a video platform? Like, think about how much real estate China has bought in the United States in the last 20 years. Why is that okay? They physically own our land. They physically own ports or large parts of ports. Like, why is this the line? That's the thing. Like, if we're gonna go full protectionist, go full protectionist is kind of my point. But if this is a global economy and we want to keep it that way, maybe we should figure out a way for the Chinese and the US to coexist in a global economy instead of sanctions and laws and stuff like this. It's going to be weird because the average TikTok user does not care about any of this. And they're just going to be mad. So
Yeah.
I don't understand why they chose now to do this. But yeah.
Election year, right? That's a big factor, right?
It's an election year, sure. But like, why? Like, why not prevent? Like, to your point, right? It's an election year. Okay, so this is a thing that they can tout. But if they're really afraid of misinformation proliferating and being spread rapidly, wouldn't they want to ban it before the election?
Yeah.
That's what I don't get. It's just like, why is this 9 months? Why? That seems arbitrary. And then, like, if Microsoft buys TikTok tomorrow, do any of us feel better
Do we
about
feel
TikTok?
safer? Do we feel no?
Do we feel safer?
No.
Do we feel better? Does it affect us at all?
Not really.
That's what's weird about this. That, and I'm not a defender of the Chinese Communist Party or TikTok in general, but I am a fan of free markets, and I think that this is clearly anti-free markets. And I think it's because of the geopolitical issue. But yeah, if they really cared about the data, Greg, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube would be in hearings every day.
Yeah.
And that's not what it's about. It's more about that. I think political dissent there's more political dissent that's easily viewable on TikTok than most other platforms. And I think that's part of the real concern. But that's conjecture.
I mean, South Park did that whole episode of the TOS, like Kyle and the Human Centipede. Like, did you read the thing?
Why don't they read?
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's because, like, honestly, like, was it like 2 or 3 pages? And like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm gonna understand very little of how it's worded. Like, I mean, I saw one for video games that are for like 4 to 8 pages. Like, I don't understand anything that says. Like, we hereby the party get permission to play this game online. Therefore, hence the party playing is not responding. I'm like, what is all this jargon? Like,
Donovan,
I'm not a lawyer.
Skull and Bones.
Yeah.
Do you remember how long the Skull and Bones EULA was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it was insane. And then they have like a code of conduct on top of that. That I agree with what you're saying there. But yeah, people's eyes glaze over. They don't read it. But my point is, you're agreeing to it even if you don't read it. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think there's a larger discussion to be had about like online literacy and the prevention of fake information spreading. But like, it's super disingenuous to only go after TikTok when it comes to misinformation, because Twitter is like a misinformation factory these days, and Facebook's had its problems with that too. And I think what's going on in Facebook groups is scarier than anything else on the internet right now, and it's largely going unreported and talked about. But having private groups where you can organize and do horrible things, I mean, that's just, I think Facebook needs accountability for their groups.
Yeah, and then Mark Zuckerberg says, like, it's not their responsibility, right? Like, it's not their problem, right? That's not our problem. Like, we're not I don't even know if it would be censorship, but just not monitoring your own platform. You know what I mean?
It's moderation, yeah.
But it does get, like I said, like, it does get, if, like, also, if you're right, it does that wire act, that balancing act of, like, well, what conversation is safe now to have? Like, can I talk to my wife? Is that conversation going to be monitored? Like, if I say certain words that flag, like, it's a huge privacy and like just debate in general, right? Like, I
don't think Americans care about privacy, man. I don't. I think the average American doesn't think that way. And like, I don't think the government cares about our privacy. So like, it's safe to assume that you are being listened to. Not all the time.
If you have a phone and you have multiple social apps, you probably are monitored in some way.
What I think is really sketchy about how TikTok specifically is doing some shady stuff, if you let TikTok have access to your entire photo library and you have an iPhone, you know how iPhones, when you take a picture, Donovan, it's also a video? It's like a live photo?
Yeah.
TikTok is actively viewing all of your live photos and recording the audio.
You gave them
they
permission.
Can use that.
You signed it.
Yeah, if you give them that, I think that's the creepy stuff. And that's not just them. I think several social media platforms are doing that. So the moral of the story here is, do not give access to your full photo library to any app. Just don't do it. Do the select specific photo thing is the right way to do that.
And contacts,
it's
too.
so bad. It's so bad and so complex, though, that the government's just straight up saying we won't allow our government officials to have this on their phones. So clearly, there's something there. And if you have nuclear secrets or you're a spy or something, yeah, don't have TikTok. But if you're like a 13-year-old who just is watching thirst trap dance videos or like, I don't know, some listicle about something, or I saw the 10 worst cities to live in Ohio, and Canton was number 10.
Yeah, I've
things
seen
like
video.
that.
I've seen
Of
that.
course you have. Of course you have. So yeah, like I think things like that, or Pearl Mania, like for every bad thing there is on TikTok, there's probably 5 good things. So it's like any other social platform. I find it weird that this is the line in the sand that we're drawing. And I just think it's hard to ignore that Facebook, Google, Apple, and Microsoft spend millions of dollars lobbying Washington every year. So I don't think that's that surprising. TikTok's owner also did. They spent $8 million so far this year lobbying Congress. But yeah, sorry. I just wanted to jump in here and provide a little bit more color to the story.
I'm glad you did, because that's why I couldn't find it. Because TikTok is not available in China, which is technically
it's called,
correct, right? But
it's called Douyin or Douyin. I don't know how to pronounce it. Douyin, and it is literally TikTok, Greg. It's just with the rules of the CCP governing.
What is it? We've experimented because we've been down the rabbit hole. This platform, like if you hashtag news or remember Rise of the Resistance, you're just not showing up anywhere. Like they
and
sure
if you
not
were
to put
putting
you in
yeah, there are words that TikTok does not like, and it will punish you for using those words. It's weird. Yeah, we've had. You, Denny, and I have had plenty of discussions about vertical videos on that platform, and it's this kind of stuff though is why it's hard to go all in on it, because it could disappear at any time, and what's the point of all that effort? Luckily, we can take what we've learned over there and apply it to Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, whatever the hell Twitter is. So yeah, it's not the end of the world for content creators, but I do think there are, just like Vine or MySpace or whatever. Like MySpace had Tila Tequila, right? Vine had the Paul brothers. Like there will be people born out of TikTok, even if it goes away, that will go on to be content creators elsewhere. I bring up Pearl Mania because like he is exactly what that platform is for. It's just a guy yelling about the news into his phone, and people trust him more than they do, NBC News these days. So like, if TikTok goes away, that guy and his millions of followers will disappear, but he'll show up again. The Paul brothers became YouTubers, right? I don't know what Tila Tequila went on to do, but I'm sure she did something great.
all the Vine people went on to do other things on YouTube,
Instagram mainly. Zach King, right? The King Cuts guy. He's on Instagram and YouTube Shorts now. So like a lot of those people will figure out a way. If your content's compelling, it's going to translate to another platform. But I will say, TikTok I think is unique in that it was built from the ground up for vertical video, where none of these other platforms were. They're all kind of shoehorning in vertical into an existing feed, be it YouTube, be it Instagram, which they've really ruined, or Facebook. So yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. But yeah, I'm gonna get out of here so you guys can get back to reacting to whatever. I think you have a trailer reaction coming.
Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Asif.
Yeah,
Thanks for stopping by.
I might be back later. We'll see.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you dropped by to give the some more political context there, because I do not have all the information. But I knew this was probably going to be our leading long-running story today. But Greg, we're going to talk about a different story that's not anymore. I guess it's happy depending on how you look at it. But it's definitely one that'll invoke a different kind of passion, because we had the first trailer for the Jim Henson documentary. Full title is Jim Henson Idea Man. This is coming out on Disney Plus May 31st, and the next month. Obviously, Jim Henson created the Jim Henson Company. His work in puppeteering spans
I'm a puppeteer.
Muppets, Sesame Street, all sorts of entertainment IP. His heyday was a bit before my time. Jim Henson passed away before I was born. I do look forward to watching this documentary. But Greg, I think his work was probably even more impactful in your upbringing than it was mine.
Yeah, I mean, like, this trailer is such a powerful trailer. It's hard not to get emotional watching it. And it's just so disappointing
Mhm.
because he was such an impact in that time period, and he died so early, and then everything's kind of like fumbled afterwards. And like you said, you were a little too young for the Muppets. You were it was past your time, but like he was like people compare him to like Walt Disney. Like I mean, that's how like huge he was becoming and how fast he was growing in terms of like an entertainer and an educator. Because that's what he was. He was like
Yeah.
an educator and an innovator and did all this stuff. He loved public broadcast television, right? And it's he was just this like force. And like I remember as a kid watching him, like my uncle was a huge Muppet fan, and like that's who I found out when I was like 5. It's like one of the first things I remember
Muppet
watching
slaps.
was the Muppet movie,
It was
on VHS.
I missed the Muppet. I mean, I knew like when I was a kid, they were on like the fourth Muppets reboot at that point, and I liked whatever like Muppets thing they had on TV. But for me, it was like Sesame Street. Like Sesame Street was like my Bible as a little kid growing up. Like my mom would tell you the stories, or she would like sit me down in front of the TV to watch Sesame Street. I hear any of those songs, see those characters, or just like the street itself or those houses, like in New York, it's like instantly back to being like 5 or 6 years old to my earliest memories. And I think that's a testament to his enduring legacy, right? Like Jim Henson died in 1990. I was born in 1998, and still I managed to have like a childhood program that was directly impacted by something he created and put out into the world. Despite the fact that we were not even we were a decade apart in being on this earth at the same time, which is a legacy a lot of people don't get to leave behind. So I think it is unfortunate that he passed as young as he did, but like his work has lived and it continues to live today, and it'll probably live for many more years after we're all gone as well. But to bring it back to the documentary itself, I'm excited to watch this because I just love documentaries, but I specifically love watching documentaries about stuff that I don't know a lot about. Like it's cool when there's a documentary about something I love or I'm into and I get to like watch and relish in all the like history. But when it's someone I genuinely don't know much about, like Henson, like I don't know much about like Dark Crystal and Fraggle Rock and stuff like that. So
Labyrinth.
I'm genuinely, yeah, Labyrinth. So just from like the educational aspect, I'm excited to sit down and watch it and learn some more about all that good stuff.
It's gonna be sad. That's all I know.
I mean, yeah,
It's gonna
it's
be
definitely
very,
gonna
very
be sad.
sad. Yeah, I just,
I mean, yeah,
it's a
they got
powerful trailer. Like I've never seen a trailer this powerful before. Excuse me. Yeah.
yeah, it is. Also, God, that original Kermit design when he was like that ghostly white color. Kermit came a long way. Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, they've got Frank Oz, Yoda himself in there, who's obviously a longtime collaborator. Jim Henson's going to be one of the many people they talk to for this one. Which again, I'm also curious to see all the people they talk to, because obviously a lot of the folks he's collaborated with, who've gone on to have fruitful careers, are still making stuff. Would be very interesting. Also curious, what's his family? What's his like the descendants up to, or his family up to? Are they like involved with this company still, or are they kind of
Kind
hands
of
off at
like
this
Disney
point?
obtained. They were already in. Jim Henson was already in talks with Disney in '89 when they bought him. Like before he died, like he would already been talking to Walt Disney because he's gone on record saying that it would be a good platform to get his Muppets to other places because he grew
Yeah.
so fast. People forget how fast like he grew and like expanded. And that can be
Mhm.
dangerous. Too much growth can be dangerous, right? And the thing about documentaries is I hope that we see the highs and the lows because it's so important to get those in when you're telling a story about somebody,
Yeah. I yeah. I mean, I'm curious to see how they do it. There's also like I believe there's a movie coming out about like SNL. It's called SNL 1975. And it's pretty much like a biopic, but it's about like the first night of SNL, like just the everything that went into like creating that show, bringing it to life. And I believe um, Jim Henson is like a character in the movie. I guess he was on SNL like on its like first week. Um, I'm gonna look up who's playing him in it 'cause I forget. Nicholas Braun is playing him. Um, Nicholas Braun is a good actor. He's been in a bunch of stuff. So yeah, it looks like there's gonna be a couple of like projects to kind of feature in some capacity Jim Henson. Obviously in very different forms. This being a documentary and that being a proper narrative movie. But this comes out on May 31st. Greg, I'm gonna assume you're gonna watch this. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you're probably gonna watch this and then review it on the show here
Yeah, oh for
for
sure.
us.
for sure. It comes out in a little over a month.
May 31st, baby. Ozzy says, has Disney Plus done many documentaries? I don't know if they've done many, but they did like the Beatles thing was on one of the Beatles things, like a dozen Beatles documentaries. But I think Disney Plus had a Beatles documentary. Disney Plus has a lot of like companion documentaries, I like to call them, when they'll like make a show, then it's like there's a docu-series about like the making of a show or like of a movie, or like they have like the concert movies, which are like kind of documentaries, kind of concert films. So they have a lot of like documentary adjacent stuff, I would say. But this is probably gonna be their highest profile one to date, I would imagine, unless I'm
Oh, dude, it probably was in
forgetting
production
something
for
obvious.
years and years and years. You know, like just gathering all
Oh
that
yeah.
footage. It takes so long. Like we talk about like 4 years of work for an hour and a half. You know, like it's rough. But like it's
Yeah. Oh, they have a okay, they also had like a documentary called Howard about the guy who did the music for like Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and Mermaid. So they've got some a library of original stuff there, similar to their other programming. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this quite a bit. I remember hearing when they announced this was happening, and then it felt like it was quiet for a while, and then the documentary just kind of popped up yesterday. I saw it on good old Twitter and bookmarked it for our show today. So that'll be a good one to watch. Very much looking forward to talking about that next month. Now, Greg, a trailer that might make you equally emotional.
we're
Is
gonna go from
one
one
for the
extreme
upcoming
emotional to the other. Great. I love it.
is the one for Deadpool and Wolverine, also known as Deadpool 3, although I've heard people say now that they're saying this isn't Deadpool 3. Whatever the hell. New trailer for that movie dropped this week, and neither of us have seen it. We're gonna do a new thing here on Pop Goes the Culture. We're gonna do a live reaction. Um, Obviously, this will be an interesting one because if you know Greg and I, you know that I like MCU stuff and he doesn't. So you're going to get both sides of the spectrum right here. But Greg, I think we can go ahead and follow the format we decided on earlier. If you want to just go ahead and give me a 3, 2, 1, go, and I'll hit play on my side, and you hit play on your side, and we'll watch this trailer 2.5 minutes and react
It's
to it in real time and give
okay.
our honest thoughts.
It's so weird too because like I don't know how to do like when you're watching a reaction video. Like I like me personally, I tend to wait till the whole thing's done because I want to absorb all of it. Because I feel like if you talk in the middle of it, you miss stuff. So I'll try my best to try to talk more or talk less. I don't know. We'll just
Right.
play it and find out from one
Yeah,
emotional spectrum to the other. Okay, let's
no, this is the same side.
All right, so let me switch here. So I'll do 3, 2, 1, go. All right, then hit it on
Okay.
go. Okay, ready? So
ready,
3,
let's do
2,
this.
1, go.
I told you, you're not welcome here.
Like the Insomniac game, we're at the bar.
Now
Beautiful.
get the fuck out of my bar.
Just give me one more drink and then I'll leave.
Hi, Peanut. I'm gonna need you to come with me right now.
Look, lady, I'm not interested.
All right, well, I'm
Is
sort
that
of on the tick-tick,
is
so
that the bar
upsy
from
daisy. Here we go.
Days of Future Past?
Oh, whiskey dick of the claws. It's quite common in Wolverines over 40.
You don't want this.
Unless you want to take a deep breath through your fucking forehead, I suggest you reconsider.
The costume looks
20th
great.
Century
I'm
Fox
about to lose
logo.
everything that I've ever cared about.
Not my fucking problem.
Is that what you said when your world went to
Yeah,
shit?
in the yellow and blue costume after what 20 years?
Yeah, we finally got it. It looks great.
This Wolverine let down his entire world.
See, homework. I don't like that. I don't like that I have to do homework.
Want to talk about what's haunting
somewhere though, because that
you,
guy's
or
not in
should
Loki.
we wait for a third
TVA.
act
I don't really know what it
Go
is.
fuck yourself.
I'll explain it to you, I'm sure.
Language. I mean, dropping the F-bomb I don't think is necessary or, I don't know, it's not.
I don't know
good
anything
because
about
of
Deadpool,
that.
baby.
but you do.
Trust me, kid, I'm no hero.
You were an X-Man.
Damn, Hugh
You
Jackman
were
looks
the
great.
X-Man.
Yeah, he does. That's my girl right there.
I am soaking wet right now.
The fact that there's a 20th Century Fox logo like in the ground. What the hell is that?
Boys are so silly.
Hold on.
This is what I'm talking
Oh, cool.
about.
They're actually doing like Old Man Logan correctly.
Big,
slow motion action
Those are
sequences.
Ant-Man masks.
Who knows if you live or die?
Oh, that's Polaris. It has to be Polaris.
Let's
Oh yeah, because the
fucking
metal.
go.
Yeah, I think that is Polaris.
Let's fucking go.
And it's Polaris from the TV show that Fox did, I think, too. It might be the same actress.
Wait, what show?
The New Mutants or whatever it's called. Or...
Hey, cocaine is the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about Bolivian marching
They
powder?
know all the slang terms. They have a list.
Even
She's having a great year. She was in Fallout.
White girl interrupter?
Even Forrest Bump.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes. But I can't.
LFG. Looking for group. That's what that means, gamers. Nice. Okay. So I have a few thoughts about that trailer.
Yes.
I'll say that the Wolverine stuff was actually pretty surprising. I didn't think they were gonna his backstory or whatever is bringing him into this movie. Actually seems like a serious story where they're like this Wolverine fucked up his whole universe. It seemed less funny, haha, than I thought it would. Obviously, it's still very silly. He's gonna make him take a deep breath through his forehead and whatnot, and he's called Lady and all that. But I thought this looked good. I like the Deadpool movies quite a bit. I know that it's been a whole thing we've been doing this for 3 years now, ever since Disney announced that they were buying all the Fox assets. That everybody was like, "Oh, Deadpool 3 is going to be watered down Disney MCU trash," blah blah blah. So I don't know. This seems very true to what Deadpool has been up to this point. At no point in that trailer, I was like, "Oh, they're pulling punches or they're trying to be like softer for the MCU audience." So I think that's good. Obviously, as a kid who grew up in the 2000s, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is like up on the highest pedestal of like comic book movie characters for me. So it's cool seeing him back. I loved Logan. I thought that was a great send off for that character, but also I think he's great as Wolverine. And I know he loves to post that he's been like on the superhero regimen again, trying to get in shape to do this movie. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks pretty cool.
No, I mean it does
Yeah.
look good. I mean, like if for those of you who've seen, like if you saw, is it just, I think it's just called Logan, right? Like the movie he did.
Yeah, it was the last Wolverine movie.
Like it's based on
2017.
the comic Old Man Logan, and it's a great book. The movie hits some of the same themes, for sure, but like it's just there's so much more in the comic that's like interesting, but totally understandable why it's not included. Like it's a road trip movie from Logan going from one point of like from the California, I think, all the way to New York, and like he's going to meet someone. I think it's Kingpin or something. Like he's trying to do something. But like, there's crazy stuff that happens in that story. Like the symbiote goes on a T-Rex at some point because dinosaurs come into the United States during this post-apocalyptic. Like all the X-Men are dead because Xavier had that huge catatonic stroke and killed them all. Like there's Pym Falls, which they have in this trailer, which is like Hank Pym died, Giant Man died, and like his carcass is too big, and so these huge skeletons like in the middle of the Midwest, and like
Okay, so that's what that was because you
Yeah.
can see the Ant-Man mask at one point, just like it's like it's opening up. You see a skull inside of it.
Yeah. So they do that. Like Hulk gets like mentally, like he goes crazy because of the radiation, like, and he ends up like inbreeding with like sheep with like his cousin, and like has like this like it's really out there. It's a lot of stuff, and I totally get why they couldn't explain it all. Like I get it. I totally get it. But like I think this film is going to like, go into that world a lot more like comic booky than the original one did. Oh my god, what's with all these fucking ads? Sorry. Than the original. I have it on loop, and it just wants to play the vaping dangerous thing. So like, I think it's not. So people are like, oh, it's the Logan one from the Logan movie. No, I think this is This is the one from the comic, the actual comic book Logan movie, where he murders. Spoilers: he murders Hulk, murders all his kids, right? And then like he goes on a road trip, and like this is the aftermath of that. Because I don't remember if he died in Old Man Logan or not. But like, yeah. So I mean, I think it's an interesting concept. The thing I don't like about it is just the homework I have to do. I don't know who the TVA are. I know a little bit about them, but I don't know that. Like the more homework I have to do I have to go watch the whole thing of Loki now to understand what they do? Like that's what I don't like. You know what I mean? Like
I'm gonna
Deadpool
bet
movie,
you probably
sure.
won't.
I hope not.
I'm gonna bet they probably just explain it because the TVA is like central to Loki, but nobody for Loki was in this trailer. Like all those characters they showed are just all new people. So I'm sure it'll be like a fun thing if you've seen Loki. You'll be like, oh, I know this room in this hallway, but I don't think Loki season 2 had no like setup for Deadpool at all whatsoever. So it's more so just a fun thing to have, I guess, for fans.
Let me just
But
confirm that that's not the same actress. Okay, it's not. I definitely think that girl that fights Wolverine is Polaris. Where is the? And there were several other mutants that I saw on when Hank Pym's skull opened up. I'm trying to find. Yeah. Come on.
Mm,
Yeah, this is definitely
yeah.
Polaris. Yeah.
Well, Daniel was saying that's Cassandra, Professor X's twin sister.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry,
I'm not familiar with that character very much.
me neither. Once you start getting into the weeds of the comics, you lose me really quickly. But I do look forward to seeing how it comes to life. Also, this is like they've wanted to make a movie like this for so long. You go back to like what was it? It was X-Men Origins. Wolverine was the one where Ryan Reynolds was in it as Deadpool, but he like didn't even speak. That's when they had like his mouth sewn, and he was like the all disfigured looking character. And then I believe it's the post-credit scene for Deadpool 2. They had the Hugh Jackman cameo where he like goes back to that scene from the end of that movie, like shoots himself in the head, whatnot. So this feels like a bit of a prophecy being fulfilled, something they've wanted to make for a long time. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's been the
I'm
running.
looking
I mean,
forward
like
to it.
the whole thing of how Deadpool was made is such a fascinating story, right? Like that whole that was like years, and they did a screen test, and they had to do all this stuff. Like it was absolutely wild. Why can I not find the skull opening in this stupid trailer? Where is it?
The shot's on screen for like a second and a half. It's past. It's closer to like the mid. Yeah. Um, it's
Is
only on there for a short couple of seconds.
I mean, the costume gets great. I feel like the MCU does suffer from like the alternate dimension thing. I think is fun, but like when it becomes like the sole thing that everything revolves around and not fun, you know what I mean? Like because then there's no not that there has to be like something lost in these movies, but like there's no like what's the word I'm looking for? There's no
Stakes.
less yeah there's no consequences for anything that happens because you just go to this other dimension and grab somebody else, you know what I mean? So like that's so it makes that death or that sacrifice like meaningless when there's no consequence, right? I mean, luckily in the Guardians of the Galaxy there was a consequence, right? Like because like I guess Gamora didn't know who Star-Lord was anymore, so there was still a consequence there. But like I feel like it's less. Here it is. All right, I see Lady Deathstrike. I see Azazel. I see. Those are the only ones I can clear as Azazel and Lady Deathstrike. That's it.
Oh, here we go. That's a wicked shot of
Yeah,
the
that's Pym
dude's
Falls.
mouth.
That's Pym Falls.
Yeah. I also a couple interesting things to note here. I think it's huge that this is the only this is only MCU movie coming out this year. This is it. It's just Deadpool. There's no other like MCU sequels coming out. I know Madam Web just came out and there's like a Craven movie, but that's Sony Marvel Universe. That's their own thing. As far as like Disney Marvel Studios, this is the only movie they got coming out in 2024, which is um a huge departure for them. Obviously, we know in their like prime, they were pumping out 3 movies a year, and I know there have been conversations about whether that was too much or not in recent years. I think how this movie does will be really interesting to see what they do going forward. It's kind of a soft reset year for them, where I know that they've got a lot of production. We know next year is going to be Fantastic Four, or they're trying to get Blade out next year, but right now it's really just Deadpool is all they've got. And I mean, if I had to guess, this movie's gonna make a shit ton of money because the first 2 Deadpools made a lot of money and people love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So I
Yeah.
would imagine this movie's gonna clear a shit ton of money at the box office. But um, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've liked what they've done with Deadpool so far. Can't go wrong with you can go wrong with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. You definitely can go wrong with him. But I'm excited based on what we've seen here.
Yeah, I mean, people look at Wolverine the movie, which was terrible, right? Like, there's a lot of, there's a lot of things they don't get. But I'd say like if you've never seen the show that I'm talking about, Donovan with Polaris is called Gifted, and it was a Fox show that only lasted I think a season or two.
Gifted.
It wasn't necessarily received well, but like because it had like all the third string mutants, right? Like it more focused on
Yeah.
like the Morlocks and Leech and like Shatter, like these weird, obscure like Morlock mutants, because they can't afford Storm, right? They can't afford Magneto, they can't afford Wolverine, right? Or they weren't allowed to
Yeah.
use them. But it was a cool little like segment about like mutants and how they're being hunted, and like the Sentinel program, it's starting up, and it has Blink in it, and it has Sunspot, I believe. I always get Sunspot and his. There's another one that has very similar powers that I get confused. I think it's Sunspot's in it, Blink's in it, Emma Frost is in it. the cuckoo
Yeah.
trio tech sisters are. Those are the Sentinels, little like drone things. Like it's cool. Like it has a lot of cool ideas, right? And like a lot of cool like those things I get into is like the level of powers, like how bulletproof. If you're invincible, right? Like or you're invulnerable, like what is the extent of that invulnerability? Like, are you bulletproof? There's a scene where he's like, I don't know. Like he's not
Yeah.
sure. I don't. He's like, well, go find out. He's like, no, you find out. I'm not gonna find out. Like, the stuff that you would talk about with your friends if you were in a group. Like, I'm not gonna go out there and get shot, see if I'm bulletproof.
Yeah.
Tomahawk,
I
Warhawk's in it. Like, Warhawk's plays a big part. He is bulletproof, which is kind of cool. Like, he finds out he is bulletproof. But it's an interesting show, and if you like X-Men, right, and you like that kind of dynamic, you should check it out. It's on Hulu.
I have very vague memories of the show existing. I don't think I ever watched it. Also, in hindsight, probably was a bad idea to just call it Gifted, having it despite it being based on like a very beloved and well-known property. You should probably get that into the title. I know we poo-poo one show in movie titles when they name it blank, blank, and then they just put like the X-Men or like IP name at the end, a Star Wars story, but like there's a reason they do that because I bet there are X-Men fans that probably don't know this show exists. Um, but yeah, I always that's one of the cool things I like about the X Men though is that they can just always reach, man, and describe these random ass characters that were like C tier X Men in the comics, but they've got an arc out there somewhere to be explored. Um, so yeah, I'm down. Greg, do you think you're going to see this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine?
I probably won't see it in theaters just because I have one theater in my town and it gets really rambunctious. And that's not because I don't want to see it, just because
Them
of
darn
like,
kids.
I mean, yeah, we usually wait like a weekend or two to see it to get the groups of tweens and teens out of there because they're just, I mean, I said everybody's theater
Rascals.
experience. It's not rascal. They're just really disrespectful. They're vaping. They're talking. They're like have their phones out. Like it's just very distracting when you're trying to be paying
Oh, yeah, I know.
$20 for a movie. So like in the last movie we saw that was really bad was It Part 2, and they was just, which is not a
That was
movie
5
a
years ago.
15-year-old, 14-year-old should be seeing, I guess. But we watched parents
Well-
literally walk like a group of like 10 kids in the theater, then walk out. So like they were like, you know what I mean? So it just, I don't know. It just
But think of it
the
like this,
etiquette-
Greg. Think like this. It Chapter 2 came out 5 years ago. The 15 and 16-year-olds that went to see that movie are now adults in their 20s. So maybe the generation behind them is better. Give them a chance.
Maybe. I mean, is that a risk I'm willing to take? Is the question. I mean, like the two last movies we've seen in theaters was I saw Ghostbusters, and it wasn't that bad
Oh, yeah.
because the theater wasn't that crowded. So, and then I saw Dungeons and Dragons, and it was just Nicole and I in the theater. There was nobody else in there. Those are the last two films I went to see in theaters. I do believe, yeah. So I guess it depends on the film. I probably won't see it opening weekend. I'm probably gonna wait for it calms down a little bit, because I do want to see that. I do want to see Wolverine. I do want to see X-Men. I do want to see what they do with Old Man Logan. I want to see how many mutants they put in it, and if they're relevant.
Yeah.
And then I'll review it on the show. But I probably won't see it opening weekend just because of that. It's just like I said on the record. My town is very small, and like I have one theater, so like and that's maybe if I see it like on a Monday morning, it'll be empty. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I love a morning screening. It's my favorite thing. Hey, you know what? Greg might not see it opening weekend, but I will, I will I do what I must. I'll do my civic duty
Mhm.
for you, viewers of the Shacknews Twitch live stream, and I will go see Deadpool and Wolverine opening weekend. I know it's not easy to do, but it is something that I'm willing to do. So please stick with us.
I
I'll
do
have my
think the
review for
trailer
you
is great. I
for
think the
20th July.
trailer is cut well. I think it has good pacing. I think it's interesting. I just get a little worried about the homework that I don't want to do. That's the that's the question.
We'll see.
I'll ask you
Used to
that
like me
because
in
you'll
high
probably
school
see
and
it on the
not
show and review it before I have a chance to see it. So like I'll ask you how much homework I need to do before I watch it.
Yeah, sounds good to me, man. And with that, we're going to move into our next segment, which is perfectly timed with the re-arrival of Earl Divix himself, because we're going to get into our review segment here.
Oh,
Watching
he
the
got
Henson clip?
adamantium on his swords. That's what that scene is. Sorry. Okay, I'm done. I'm done dissecting it.
Well, I'm back with another terrible movie review.
Oh, you're here.
Yeah,
Terrible. You love this movie.
I do. But
Llamageddon 2?
I'll readily admit it's a bad. Come on, have you seen it, Donovan?
Only bits and pieces. I've only seen clips from this movie. I've never watched it.
You've never you never sat down and just watched it.
No.
So I'm doing a lot of duplication in Zelda these days. So I threw on the movie last night. So I had draft day because Greg, today is draft day in the NFL. So this is like
What shape is the ball? Is it the
Oval.
Okay, I know what sport that is. All right, continue.
Oval. Kind of like an egg.
Okay, continue.
It's made out of leather. They call it a pigskin, but it's leather.
Okay.
Anyway, football. Draft day. Today. The first pick of the draft, the Chicago Bears. Denny's team. And so anyway, this is a movie about the Cleveland Browns. So I have to watch it, right? It was almost like I legally had to watch it. But the further you watch this movie, you really start to see a disconnect from reality. There's this beloved coach, Coach Weaver, who was fired by the general manager, Sonny Weaver Jr., his son. There's never been a beloved coach in Cleveland, ever. There's a character in the film who says, like, he's dreaming of being a Cleveland Brown because his dad played for the Browns. There's no one who cares at all about playing. No one has ever said on draft day, I just want to be a Brown. No one has ever said that. But Arian Foster said that. And you could argue he was a great actor because of it. I would say that the number one thing showcased in this film, Greg, is this weird transition that they did for every phone conversation, where it would be like a split screen of two different shots, and like one split screen would grow as the one person was talking, and then it would like shift over.
Oh, that's like some Steven Soderbergh Ocean's 11.
It's just an
editing.
editing style, like Donovan said, like Ocean's 11 kind of like popularized. I did another thing, but that's what popularized.
But it's like, sure, it's used like how many times in Ocean's 11? Like 12.
What is
like
the film
4
called?
times?
So I can start looping a trailer because I know
Draft Day. Literally Draft Day with Kevin Costner.
2014.
Let's talk about the cast, Donovan. How the hell did they cast this film? You had Kevin Costner as the GM. You had Jennifer Garner as his girlfriend that he knocked up. And really, some of the most awkward lines ever delivered in the history of film, Donovan. Like, there's this scene where Kevin Costner's like, you remember when the 1989 Super Bowl? And Jennifer Garner just is like, yeah, Joe Montana, 93 yards, 3 minutes, 23 seconds. It's like, who talks like this? Nobody. But like, she also has this one part in the film where she says, I'm action-oriented. I'm a Cleveland girl. And I die of cringe every time she says it.
You didn't
it's
feel
like
that
this
in your soul?
No. And she is football, according to that. Also, Dennis Leary as the coach? Like, what are we doing here? Dennis Leary. You couldn't find anyone else. So, like, Dennis Leary. That's the guy. That's the guy you got. You see this scene.
Ivan Reitman directed it? Oh, God.
I know!
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, Greg!
Why? No.
Greg's like jump scare.
That was I was waiting to bring that up, Greg, because I know how much you like Ivan. How did this happen is my point. How do you get Ivan Reitman? How do you get Jennifer Garner? Dennis Leary? You know who else is in this? And to me, this is why I have a soft spot for this film, Donovan.
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman absolutely slays as Vontae Mack. He is and this is pre-Black Panther. So I would argue that this is the performance that landed Black Panther. Because there's all these celebrities in this film, but Chadwick Boseman's portrayal of Vontae Mack is by far the best performance in the entire film. And it's like funny, and yeah, it was great. But yeah, Kevin Costner as a GM, ridiculous. His mom, the idea that we would have continuity in ownership or coaching in Cleveland is just so baffling to me. From what I read, this was originally supposed to be a movie about the Buffalo Bills, but the Bills wouldn't let them shoot on location. So the Browns were like, fine, we'll do it. And they just took the script that they already had with like the long tenured coach and the legacy player, and they just pivoted it to being about the Browns. One of the worst parts of this movie is at the very end, and I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything here, because it's
movie turned 10 years old this month.
It's a 10-year-old movie
that
you had plenty of time. Well, I own it.
Oh,
Oh, you saw it
No,
in
he-
2014,
he-
but you're doing a review of it.
Of course, I went to go see it in the theater as my duty, especially back in 2014. I was a Browns fan. I'm not even a Browns fan now, but I love cinema and I love sports movies. I just do, you know. And I saw this with my brother in Texas, and it was funny because they like. Every time they talk about a team or a team is featured in the film, they have this like wide shot of the stadium and it says like home of the Texans, home of the Browns. So like everyone started cheering in the theater when the Texans stadium showed up. And we're like, come on guys. Like it's not a real sporting event. You're not cheering this isn't your real GM. But yeah. So I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, great film. You should watch it. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it.
Despite not seeing it, I've always been fascinated by this movie because there's just like no movie like it. Like there's so many sports movies, but a movie that specifically follows the cycle of the NFL draft, which is such a like niche thing to even center a story about. Because even among football fans, only a fraction of them care about the actual draft process.
Yeah.
So for them to like take that and turn it into a full feature film, I thought was so fascinating. And now it's got like this weird, I don't want to say cult following because that would imply that they all like the movie, but it's got like this mysticism around it. It feels like 10 years later.
Yeah, like the mysticism of why on earth did this get greenlit?
Yeah.
Like, but also like how did they think that they could put together this ensemble and it would work?
I have a theory. In Hollywood,
What's your theory?
In Hollywood, they have something called a player-play contract, which means if an actor signs a contract to do a film and the film gets canceled, they get paid anyway. So maybe they had all these actors had signed the thing and they lost the rights to you said the Buffalo Bills, the Bills?
The Bills are just like, we don't want you to film here.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, or like maybe something happened in production where they're like, okay, now we have to pivot, and if we don't pivot, we're gonna have to still pay Kevin Costner, Dennis Leary, and all these people. So let's just make a movie. Let's just make a movie about the Browns. Like, let's just go forward doing that. That could have been why.
I pointed this out earlier on our podcast actually, but there are some problematic things that have shown up in this film.
Hasn't aged the best.
The agent of Bo Callahan, like the prize quarterback that everyone's after, Greg, that his agent is played by Sean Combs. You know, Puff Daddy?
Sure.
You probably don't know.
I'm familiar with Puff Daddy. I don't, but I didn't know his name was Sean Combs. Like,
you're not up to date on what's going on. No, but like that guy's house has been raided by FBI agents since I last saw the movie.
Oh right, and
so I was like,
and he escaped to like a third
on a private jet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a weird dude. He's in this film. He is a horrible actor. Like one of the worst actors ever. So if you want, like, I feel like there's not, like, you know, Donovan, you mentioned how I love Moneyball.
Yeah.
Moneyball has Bobby Kotick in it. He plays the owner of the Oakland A's. And every time I see that scene, I cringe a little bit. So now it's like every time I see Puff Daddy on screen in Draft Day, I'm like, ugh. But luckily he's not in it a lot, and he plays a sleazy agent, which is kind of perfect for him now. But yeah, this movie has become a meme for me and my brothers. Like we will talk about Bo Callahan or Vontae Mack no matter what. We also use the term Cleveland royalty liberally because it's just that's those two words together, like absurd. Cleveland royalty.
Hey,
he's Cleveland royalty, Donovan.
They've created their own alternate reality in this.
It really is. It did feel like some sort of like parallel universe, Cleveland Browns, where they weren't the worst run organization on earth. But yeah, this movie also has great cameos. You got Boomer from ESPN, Chris Berman. You got Rich Eisen, who actually interviews the owner. Yeah. Jim Brown is in this movie. Bernie Kosar's in this movie. Yeah.
I know who Jim Brown is.
I know. I've had to explain who he is to you several times. But yeah, Jim Brown, rest in peace, by the way. He died last year. But yeah, he's in the film. The last 30 minutes, Donovan, is... I don't know if it's accurate or even remotely close to what would happen in a real draft room, but it's funny. And it concludes with the phrase, "Do it, you pancake eating motherfucker," which I just think is a great way to conclude the film.
I think it's also worth mentioning because you talked about like who greenlit this and them paying for all the stars. This movie had a budget of $25 million, and in the entirety of its box office run, it made $29.8 million. So it did not, it did not make money. Yeah, it was only 4
That's a
million north of
flop,
its
right?
budget, which means they lost money because they had to
That's
pay
a flop,
producers,
right?
Yeah,
Because I don't know if you remember, they had draft day everywhere marketing wise. Like it was on every NFL show. They had commercials during the whatever. Yeah, they pushed this. I remember they were trying to push this like it was Field of Dreams for football. And I'm like, it is not. there's nothing about this like that. Field of Dreams is a good story. This is not. This, and I brought it up on the podcast, but like, Greg, there's a scene where the owner of the Browns flies to New York because that's where they were having the draft, and he has the Bo Callahan jersey ready to hand to him. And I'm sorry for spoiling the ending here. They don't draft Bo Callahan, they draft Chadwick Boseman. And the owner's all mad and he throws the jersey down and he leaves. He gets into a limo in Manhattan after the first pick and flies back to Cleveland in time to argue with the GM for the 6th pick. Now, Donovan and I were talking about this. That's probably about 50 to 60 minutes. I don't think it's possible to fly private from New York to Cleveland and get to Cleveland Browns facility in time for that to actually happen. So this is a lot like the Tommy Boy issue with the airport scene where she's flying from Sandusky to Cuyahoga Falls. I don't know if you remember that. That's a 2-hour drive. No one on earth would ever fly from Sandusky to Cuyahoga Falls. So anyway, these are the deep thoughts that I have while watching Draft Day for the 10th time or whatever. Also, that draft board is hideous. No draft board would ever look like that. There's actually a really good video on the San Diego Chargers YouTube channel where they had
that? San Diego Chargers.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Los Angeles Chargers. Sorry. Anyway, their YouTube channel, they had last year's GM watch Draft Day and criticize it for things that like weren't realistic. And he's like, funny. He's like, that's the worst draft board I've ever seen, was one of the things he said. Yeah.
I want to watch anyway. That. I was literally going to say, I would love to see a GM break this down.
I do want to say that, like, you know, back in the day, we used to cover the NFL rookie events that were held in LA. I don't know if you remember that, Asif, with John. We used to cover that all the time. And
I do.
What blew
I remember
mind,
banging my head on the table watching you interview athletes.
It's so brutal. But I think the funniest thing about that is that, like, the behind the scenes stuff, that I think enough time has passed as I can talk about this. But like, so they pull in all the rookies that were drafted, right? The first timers out of college, whatever, coming in for the first time. And they have an idea of who's going to be popular, but they never know. So the good old NFL makes sure that those people sign so many helmets and t-shirts in advance in case they become the next Jim Brown. So I look at this room and it's a huge like a conference room, like one of those big event rooms like in hotels. And they have all these, like, at the time it was a Kansas City Chiefs room. So like they had helmets in boxes and jerseys with the guy's number on them. And like the rookies just signing everything and doing this because they've been doing it for 6 hours, signing merchandise just in case they end up being the MVP of that year. You know what I mean? Like, and like
so often, even if they are a successful player, they may have their best years not in that jersey because so many players go elsewhere because of free agency or trades or being cut. Yeah, that is a nightmare. Those step and repeat, like, red carpet things, they suck in general because you only have like a minute 30 to ask a question. But I think if you put me and Donovan there, we could get some good answers.
We could get some much better content than what
one
I
and done.
Because
ours was like Donovan and I talking football with football players would be pretty solid. Actually, I got to interview Richard Sherman a few years ago. Ooh. And that was a pretty solid interview.
My mom would be jealous. That's one of her favorite football players ever.
He's a fascinating dude.
Yeah, he is.
Just his life story is really interesting. I know he's had some problems with drunk driving and stuff, but Yeah, that was a great interview. I enjoy talking to athletes in general. Yeah. Way to screw that up, Greg.
I know, right? I know it was a Madden. Actually, we got the invite through EA because they would scan their faces for Madden.
Okay, so it's my fault. It's my fault.
No,
Never mind.
I
called it best-selling monopolistic trash, man. I gave it a 3 out of 10. They're never going to give us Madden early again.
That'll do that.
They're going to invite us to anything ever again. We went from getting invited to those influencer sporting events at headquarters to now, like, just nothing. They just spit in our mouth once a year.
We have some here, actually. I was hoping some of them have been lost to time when the Gamer Live channel got purged, but I think I have. Aaron Dobson, New England Patriots. Like, I have this. Like, this is.
Yeah, Greg's gonna have these interviews with complete busts that no one knows about. Like, who the hell's Aaron Dobson?
Be the MVP, right? That's the thing, right? You don't.
He's got like a Josh Rosen interview in there.
Who the hell is Aaron Dobson? I'm now Googling this.
I have no idea.
He is 32 years old, and apparently, is he in the league? Maybe.
That's funny. It looks like he's a coach now.
God damn. Yeah. Well, Greg, bad news.
Hold on.
Aaron Dobson did not turn into Jim Brown.
Okay, what about
he won a Super Bowl
Gavin Escobar?
He did.
Or Ryan Nassib, or yeah, there's a couple ones.
Ryan Nassib, I know who that is. Also, he was on that Patriots Super Bowl team and when they beat Seattle, 2014.
You know,
anyway,
because you go to these events and like it's a lot different in person than what people see like as a final edited finished product. And I went to an event. Remember when they used to do those Call of Duty grunge matches with like 2 sports celebrities? Like, yeah, so like I went to an event there and I was interviewing. I forget who his name was, but I started to interview them, and the PR person came and went, "Stop! She's like, how much is what?" And she came up to him. She's like, "How much is your watch?" She whispered. I could totally hear because he was loud. "How much is your watch?" 20 G's. "Take it off. It's not relatable." And that's what she said to him in the middle of the interview. Just stopped it. I was like, let the man wear his 20-gram watch. He's earned it. Like, that's fine, but not relatable. I was like, oh my God. Like, the PR side of some of this stuff is the agent part of that stuff is wonky. It gets really wonky. And I really wish it was more transparent, because that's the next movie, not Draft Day. It's called PR Day. And you have to like spin things with.
I think it would be cool to see like an actual documentary of the draft, like from behind closed doors.
But the NFL films in there. How have they not done this?
Because
you know what I mean? Like,
they don't
you
want
take
people to know.
I think it's trade secrets, but also like,
oh yeah, I mean,
but that production value, like if they could delay it a year, right? So it's not, you're not going to affect anyone's decision making, but like behind closed doors footage of a draft day would be way more interesting than Kevin Costner acting like he's in Cleveland. There's one last thing I want to bring up about the movie. Dennis Leary is like, I left Dallas to come here because I wanted to win. And I brought my pretty wife who liked all those fancy things in Dallas. Kevin Costner's like, we have fancy people in Cleveland. And Dennis Leary goes, no, you don't.
That's pretty funny.
That's probably one of the best lines in the film.
That's good.
Anyway, it's draft day, so I thought I'd talk about draft day with you guys.
Yeah, I'm excited. Hey, after we're done here, I'm going to go watch it with my brother, so I'm looking forward to it. You should make this your annual tradition, also. Just watch this movie every year.
It is.
On NFL draft day. See how long you can do that.
It's been 10 years.
Oh, you do? You already watch it every year?
I've literally been doing this. This is just I've already been doing it, man. Like if draft day is coming up, I'm watching draft day at least once. It's like opening day in baseball. I'm watching Moneyball at least once. Like those are movies I can go back to. I don't know. I think Moneyball is just an amazing film. It's like
Moneyball is good.
I think it's an excellent story. You don't have to like sports to be interested in that story at all. I do think you have to be interested in sports to like draft day. But I'll put draft day slightly above Lamageddon.
Slightly above.
Slightly above is rough. Slightly above is rough. Man, I love this Madden like 13 gameplay we're watching.
Yeah, what are we looking at?
Dude.
Oh, it's an interview. It's my interview with Joseph Randall for the Dallas Cowboys. Come on, man. Like, you know, this guy 11 years ago obviously became the next Jim Brown. I don't know.
No, he really didn't.
I don't know, man. Like that, I don't get the ones that are already like super like popular. I don't get them. I'm not allowed to talk to them.
No, for sure.
And we'll not talk to
I
the
get
rookies
that.
nobody's not sure that they're good, that if they're good or not yet, right?
Well, now we're not even allowed to do this because I gave Madden a 3 out of 10.
It's all about ethics in journalism, right? That's the.
I like to
Okay.
imagine that Greg has like unknowingly been getting like interview invitations for like Caleb Williams and then like all these like top pros. He's just like, who are these people?
I never heard of Caleb Williams.
I would.
Yeah, he's like, we're not-
Daniels.
Ariana Grande and watch Donovan just freak out because I'd be like, oh yeah, so music.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, the worst person. I'm trying to think. Like the worst 5 people for Greg to interview. It would be like Chris Pratt,
There's probably
Missy
names.
Elliott,
I would pay to watch that interview.
Chris Pratt, and Greg. That would be actually.
Yeah, Greg interview Chris Pratt.
That would be interesting. Chris Pratt is in Moneyball, by the way.
He's in a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so what
But
point
yeah, like-
did you decide to leave your wife because you were too cool for school? That'd be the opening question.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that wouldn't last long.
No.
Jesus
click.
Christ.
Yeah, and then basically any athlete.
The athlete stuff is rough. It's really rough. I think John gave me questions because I had problems. Like I was like, how good do you run ball? How good do you throw ball?
It's just it was especially offensive to me because I'm like, I love football. I know these things. I can ask questions. And yeah.
I can't
By
be
the
good
time
at
that-
everything. I mean, like I'm gonna be bad in certain sections, and this sports is rough. Sports is rough.
No, for sure. That's fine.
You
But,
see me in
yeah.
baseball. Baseball, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no clue what I'm doing in baseball.
Yeah. I don't think baseball has a clue what they're doing either, so works out. Cool. Well, that was it for me. I don't know what else you guys have going on in the show.
Okay.
Yeah,
I ever tell you that
I'm gonna do
I got
a-
a cease and desist from the NFL when I was in like mid 2000s.
For what?
So
Did you rebroadcast it without their
So
express written consent?
I had done a little like they were called like animatic interactive books for the iPad. You know, the ones that they would swipe and they'd have like little animations and the thing would come up. And I'd done the book and it was endorsed by a player from the Kansas City Chiefs at the time, and like did interviews with him, and I inserted those interviews into the trailer. And he was wearing his Kansas City jersey with like the NFL logo on the top. And the day I got that, I remember because I came home from work, my day job, and I checked my phone and I had like 48 missed messages. And like I opened, before I checked my phone, I opened the thing and it was just like cease and desist, you know, you will be held legally responsible. And I answered the phone call, it was declined. He's like, you need to blur the NFL logo off the trailer and take it down right away. That was, so they had, because we had interviewed him with his jersey on and he had the NFL on that and the NFL didn't have that permission, they threatened to sue, so we had to take down the trailer and I had to blur it out. And I think the client blamed me because they said you should have known that, and I never worked with them again, which is unfortunate.
That happened to the Pat McAfee show last year. I remember when
I remember this.
they called it the Professional American Football League because even though they license, Greg, they pay millions of dollars to the NFL to license the footage, they were not allowed to rebroadcast team logos.
Yeah.
On the scoreboard of the broadcast that they were rebroadcasting. And they're like, this is stupid. So then they were like, they started drawing stick figures for the different logos and like putting them over them. And they, instead of calling it the NFL, they were calling it the PAFL. But yeah, so you're not alone in this, Greg. The NFL is notorious for issuing takedowns. I'd say the NFL, Major League Baseball, and pro golf are the most litigious on the internet. The NBA is like, go for it. They don't care. It doesn't seem like they care. As long as you're not like re-uploading the whole thing, they don't seem to care. Because like internet discourse is about highlights and cool things that happen, you know? So like I think the NBA understands it a little bit better than everyone else.
I mean, it throws you back to the Washington Redskins South Park episode where like their logo lapsed, and so they used it everywhere, and it was great. I loved. It was just like there would have been a time where they would have loved to just sue everyone who used that anywhere, and they couldn't use it anymore. So, and it's everywhere. Let's see if I can find a picture of it. Like,
yeah,
it's a whole thing.
I'm not gonna touch it. I'm like.
No, I just think
I'm just gonna let that one sit
just,
there.
it's
I'm
just,
good.
it's
I was gonna
just
drink my tea, not say a word about what happened to the Cleveland Guardians.
But no, yeah, it's not good at sports. I already didn't like the NFL, and that they made me lose a client over that. So I maybe like technically it wasn't my fault, like on paper, but that's
At least you didn't have to star in a film with Kevin Costner about draft day in Cleveland.
Directed by Ivan Reitman, but hey, you know what? Sometimes you just
Maybe
take
part
it for
two
the
one day.
paycheck. That's it's a paycheck at that.
Donovan, you say that, but man, as someone who, just the last thing, at the very end of the film, they have all their new draft picks come up on stage with the fake owner and the fake GM, and the crowd starts chanting Super Bowl.
Wow.
It is so embarrassingly cringy, Donovan.
Did they get to the Super Bowl?
No, never. Not even close. So it's like the end is this big, everyone's like pumping their fists going, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. And it's like, never in the history of Cleveland, Ohio, would a crowd ever do that. Because we've been through too much disappointment to ever think that we could win a Super Bowl. It's absurd.
Where it fades to black and says, like, the Cleveland Browns went on to never win a Super Bowl ever.
That would be great. But to your point, Donovan, man, it would be cool to have like the day after draft or like the year after draft day. And you get to see like, how did Vontae Mack do? How did Brian Drew do? How did Bo Callahan do?
I mean,
we'll never know.
NFL, it's going to be like, this guy got fired. This guy got fired.
All these people, somebody.
Yeah. This person's facing a civil lawsuit. Yeah. But,
especially if they want to talk about Deshaun Watson and the real Cleveland Browns. But yeah, and unfortunately Chadwick Boseman has passed away, so we will never get the conclusion to the Vontae Mack story. Although it is a pretty great story. And like I said, he also talks in an accent the whole movie. I don't know if you like his voice is pretty recognizable, like his actual voice.
When Kevin Costner or Dennis Leary?
No. Chadwick Boseman.
Oh, Chadwick. Okay.
He like speaks in this like southern accent the whole time. It's very weird. Anyway, draft day.
There you have it. Draft day 2014. Happy 10th anniversary.
I can't believe it's been 10 years. That's insane. I saw that in the theater though.
You know,
10 years.
It was like me and 8 other people. Me, my brother, and 8 other people.
You and everyone who bought a ticket to go see that movie.
That was the first. 2014 was the first year I started actually like doing the interviews. I'd edited them before that, but that's a pivotal year for me. Also, the first year that I think Shaq had started at that time, but I wasn't part of it yet.
No, you were there. You were at CES with us and stuff. Yeah, it was still. I don't know. That's a whole other story for another day.
Another day.
That'll be its own movie.
God, it would be better than Draft Day. A movie that explains how I bought Shacknews in the first year. Yeah.
God, how wild to see a movie like that. That would be really cool.
We'll start working on
and
the
screenplay. And then I could do interviews
for that
after being like, yeah, that's all untrue. They made all of that up. That's not how that happened. It was just a phone call. No one got punched. No one fell downstairs. It was just a phone call.
Oh, it's like that scene in the Tetris movie where there's like a chase scene to the airport.
Yeah.
It's like complete embellishment.
Multiple biopics
we gotta dramatize
had
it.
been like, yeah, they have like even the Queen biopic was like, yeah, there were a lot more drugs than they were throwing in the movie. Like they're like mountains of drugs.
If you think back to 2014 Shaq, there was we had a Shaq meet in Vegas, right? An Encore Beach Club. I invited a bunch of people to watch LeBron's game, his first game back in Cleveland in October of that year. So we had like a suite. Yeah, there'd be a lot of on-location shots for that. And then the website was collapsing in on itself like a dying star. So yeah, there would be all sorts of interesting stuff going on. That was the first year I owned the place. It was great. Great. Nothing bad to say about that at all.
Amazing. Well, folks can stay tuned for that story once we bring it to screens.
Yeah,
But,
I don't think I'll be reviewing that one. But I did find Evil Bong. It is on Amazon. I can watch it. So maybe that'll be the next one.
Okay. That's an
I did
important update.
notice that there are a lot of sequels to Evil Bong. Like a lot. I don't understand how that happened, but where does Tommy Chong get all this money? Is it the CBD gummies?
I don't know. Like he's got an audience. He's got a community. Like
Yeah, he's out there. He's the only ad I see on Twitter anymore.
Which one is Tommy? Is Tommy the one with the long hair? Or is that Cheech?
I have no idea.
Cheech, I want to say they're old. They're old.
Yeah.
They're both very old
Yeah.
now. But Cheech had the longer hair. Cheech was shorter. Tommy had glasses. Does that ring a bell?
No, I remember listening. They had comedy albums. They had movies and they had comedy specials that they did. And my dad made like introduced me to them, which was kind of funny. And you see them around, and they appear in certain shows sometimes. One of them was in that '70s show for like a hot minute as a recurring character. He was great in that. Customer's gonna drive away.
I want to say that.
No, man,
that
was
was
drive away.
Yeah, that was Tommy Chong.
Yeah, Tommy. Yeah, we're playing the game of life, man. This life's so much better than my real life. Really interesting type of humor, which is funny. Early pot humor, right? I'd say, right?
Yeah. Kind of like slapstick weed humor.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that deep. It was like, oh, we got pulled over by a cop. Here's a sketch about it. It's like, okay. Anyway, sorry to have derailed your show twice today.
It's fine.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, it's brought us right to the end because we've got news to cover in about 3 minutes. So gonna get ready to go ahead and unwind here. But hey, that was an action-packed episode. We got to do our first trailer reaction. I'm curious to see what people think about that one. Yeah,
I thought it looked good.
Me too. As Greg likes to say, it shows a high-octane thrill ride.
Put it on the back of the box.
Yeah. We need to put that on one of our thumbnails going forward. It's a high octane thrill ride, and then the quote will be from Greg Burke commenting on his own show.
On his own show.
Wait, no, I wanted to see. I mean, your Abigail. That looks so good. You saw it? It was on the run-up show. Did you see it?
I did see it. But I can save 7.
Oh
7.
no, man, that looked really good too.
It's good.
I give Draft Day a 9, by the way.
A 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
I mean,
9 out of 10 Super Bowls. That's what. That's the Vox. That's the Vox quote.
I don't know. I give Abigail like a 7 out of 10. I think it's good, but I have like a whole lot of more baggage with that movie that goes beyond the movie itself because it's the people who made the new Scream movies and all the stuff with Paramount Spyglass. It's a lot to get into. I'll make it its own thing.
Yeah, it can affect
talk about it.
It shouldn't, but it does. It sucks.
But it's good though. I mean, hey, 7's a good score in my book. I gave it 3.5 stars on my Letterboxd app. So there you go.
That means it's worse than the Mario movie.
Oof. Well, that's a high bar.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the Mario movie was great.
Yeah, it is.
That's not like Mario's not like some. It's not like it's not a sin that I think is worse than the Mario movie.
9 out of 10 on this tombstone. That's what it'll say.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
They are both enjoyable movies. I think you'd actually like Abigail a good amount. It's very violent, but yeah, it's there's a bit going on in that movie.
It's a vampire movie. I would expect it to be violent.
Yeah.
We talk about the kills, like it sounds like it's about the kills and the way people die. Like that's part of the hook, right? That's part of the gimmick.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna get out of here. I gotta go help report news.
Yeah, I have to stream it on YouTube.
Alrighty.
Yep.
Peace out. We are going to wrap up here, folks, because that has been episode 128 of Shacknews Presents Pop Goes the Culture. As always, I'm Donovan Erskine. That has been Greg Burke, and we will see you guys next week for episode 129. Peace out. See you then.